أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. So we are contemplating on Quran, we are contemplating with Quran, and we have been discussing how Quran is introducing us divine names, the beautiful names. And this was our initial statement. Quran is the revealer of the treasuries of divine names hidden in the heavens and on the earth. So we were questioning what is divine name, and why is it a treasure hidden in plain sight? What does this mean, and how does Quran introduce this to us? In what sense is it hidden? And so how is it that it's a treasure? So last week we discussed this verse and the following verse. So anything you remember from last week that stayed with you? Let me start with that, about divine names and how Quran is introducing divine names. How is it hidden, yet it is in plain sight? Nothing? That's worrisome. Okay, there's something there? No? Okay. I wasn't here last week. Oh, you're not here. Okay, it was the week before. Okay. Okay. So I remember Brother Bikan's beautiful example. So he was talking about how like his two daughters sometimes are having little fights. And he said, if I do not, referring back to this verse, and this verse is mentioning, certainly we created for hell many of the jinn and mankind. They have hearts with which they fail to understand. They have eyes with which they fail to see. And they have ears with which they fail to hear. They are like cattle, indeed even more astray. Such are utterly heedless. The most beautiful names belong to Allah, so call on Him by them. But shun those who deviate in His names, for what they do, they will soon be punished. So, like the depiction in here is, there is heart, but it doesn't understand. There are eyes, but it doesn't see. There are ears, but it doesn't hear. And Brother Birkan gave us the example of his two daughters. And he says, if I do not see the divine names in there, if I do not look with this perspective, I just see one being envious of the other child and fighting, and then I am the person there to educate one of them so that they start learning how to behave properly. But he said, if I read it or try to understand it as my Creator is educating me with this scene over here, so what is happening? Why is my older daughter is not being okay with what I gave her as the toys and still looking to steal the younger child's toy? He said in here, what I am observing, he said, was these temporary things are not enough for me. I always want more. I am created in a way that I always want more, and only my Maker can satisfy this heart. So human heart, even if you're a small child, is so huge of a, if you like, black hole. It wants to take everything in it. Nothing in this life, temporary life, is satisfying it. And my Creator is giving this lesson to me in this scene, saying that only the one who has power over everything can satisfy this heart. So reading وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ name in this scene, it was in plain sight, but as the verse is saying, I have a heart which does not understand, I have eyes which doesn't see, and then the next verse ties it back to all the beautiful names belongs to Him. So this was how we discussed last week. And now for this week, another example from Quran in regards to how Quran uses the like this general pattern in Quran, how it uses the verses to summarize us with divine names. So let me first read the verse. Or, well, before reading the verse, maybe I should mention this. You know many verses which conclude by saying وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ وَهُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ وَهُوَ الْعَلِيمُ الْحَكِيمُ. Like a long sentence comes at the end. This is how the verse concludes. So what is the message in here? Like those divine names appear at the end of the sentence, and the general this general pattern of Quran is summarizing what was mentioned in the verse in a few words, and those words are divine names. So in a sense, explaining a phenomena you see in life and then summarizes it with a single word, which is a divine name. So let's say you see the rain, it's raining this and this and that, and verse concludes by saying وَهُوَ Rahim, which simply should mean all the things you see about rain means Rahim. So Rahim means this, this means Rahim. So this is Quran's approach. And here's an example of that. قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Say, who provides for you from the heaven and the earth? مَنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارِ. Or who controls hearing and sight? وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ. And who brings the living out of the dead and brings the dead out of the living? وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ. And who arranges every matter? فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ. They will say Allah. فَقُلْ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. So say, then will you not have consciousness of Him? Are you not going to have taqwa then? فَذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمُ الْحَقِّ. For that is Allah, your Lord, the truth. فَمَاذَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا الضَّلَالِ فَأَنَّا تُصْرَفُونَ. And what can be beyond truth except error? So how are you averted? So the verse, as I try to split it into chunks, the first verse, let's focus what the verses say. قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So Quran is asking that question to us. What do you think? Who is providing you, I mean, all of you, from heavens and the earth? What's your answer to that question? Let's start so that you have some input to the conversation. Yes. Anybody? Who provides you from heavens and the earth? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, like, how did you get to that conclusion? I mean, yes, eventually at the end of the verse, you will say, فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ. They will say Allah. But tell us a little more. Is this a hand? Okay.
I can start.
Okay.
I was thinking of like when we were talking about the first situation we see, even like the example that we gave earlier about the example whether we gave last week. Even in that, there's the first step of what you actually see. Okay, you can, if we observe something and we just say, oh, this is jealousy or this is something. The more you unravel that thing, the more you get to know it can't be simply this. So what is doing that? You keep asking why, and ultimately the idea is then to get to the answer that was taught to us. So there has to be a maker that's beyond this thing, because it can't just be jealousy or not wanting to share.
And in this case, when we say man yarzuqukum, so like immediately it's asking who is feeding you. What would your biology professor or I don't know, chemistry professor answer to that question? Let's start from there. Yeah.
Whatever food I eat will nourish my body, the component to whatever carbohydrate I put in my body will give me a certain energy. Protein, we don't do certain things, but the component of the food itself will provide the necessary reason for me to do that.
So since the verse is asking من وَمَنْ يَرْزُقُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, from the heavens and the earth, who feeds you? Like if the question was, who feeds you when you're in this building? What would you say? I mean, whomever put the food into the kitchen. Like you do not say that, oh, food feeds me. You would say somebody must have put the food there. But when it comes to the universe, would your biology professor say anything as such? Like somebody put the food to the tree. It just happened to be there. Like nobody put the food there. It just happened to be there by this or that. So the verse itself is suggesting me to think about, like, this food is specifically prepared for your mouth. Shouldn't this mean that somebody put it there? Somebody knowing about you, caring about you, put it there. So, because this notion of it happened to be there and I found it is what takes us away. But specifically seeing that you are being provided, sustained, means that something is specifically going on for you here. Then the second verse, second part, أَمَّنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ, who has control over hearing and sight? Does anybody have control over hearing and sight? What do you think? Have you ever thought that your hearing and sight is being controlled by someone? No, it just happens to be there. Or yeah, you said yes. Who is controlling your eyes or hearing?
I'm just thinking of instances like
Okay.
one time when I was really tired, even though like, I mean, in a normal sense, you'd be like, oh, like if I close my eyes, like I choose not to see anymore. I guess in one sense, that's like a sense of control.
Mhm.
But one time I was really tired and even like reading words in front of me, I couldn't read it because it was like, even though I was seeing, I couldn't make sense of that in my brain.
I see. So your brain was tired, meaning your brain is controlling your sight? Not exactly.
No.
So that's an interesting thing to question, actually. As Quran is inviting us to question, who controls sight, who controls hearing? Do they have a controller? So is it jealousy? So because hearing is a part, you talk, it comes to my ear. So whomever is controlling my hearing or making my hearing must also be able to transfer the sound. There's something there.
In both instances, like it doesn't feel right to say brain because I take that as like, oh, I get an information and like my brain interprets it. Sometimes like if we're seeing something and we take that as one thing, but it might not be the same, you know? So like then seeing that, oh, we control our hearing and our sight also doesn't seem right.
Okay. Then what? Yes, kids are making you busy, I guess. So hearing and seeing, what's the matter about this? Why is Quran attracting my attention to that? What's special about it? Yeah.
I guess the default is that I feel like I am being things, and even if I don't think I am directly like controlling, like I don't know how, or I'm not in control of like the signals that like come from like the light or something and how the brain processes them to give sight. But I do say that there's something happening in the brain and therefore I can see and I can hear, and I don't really think like deeper than that, that like there's something controlling like this, or there's a reason I'm seeing this sight of like these children drawing in front of me, or the screen and everyone here. Like it doesn't feel like there is, like it just happens. Like it doesn't, I feel like I don't really think, oh, I'm being shown all of these things for a reason, or I'm hearing these things for like a specific reason.
I mean, yes, reason is good, but let me ask the question like this. Do you guys have service in your phone, like wireless service? Who is the owner, maintainer of the service?
This mobile company. Yeah.
The company? Yeah.
Well, they own like cell phone.
Many things are happening, right? For the service, for you to receive service on your cell phone, a very good amount of job is being done behind the scenes. You just take it for granted. You open your phone and you start using it. Maybe you're paying a few dollars per month and whatnot. But apart from that, you do not deny that somebody is sending and receiving the data packages that I send and receive. Right? How about your eyes? You had a comment there? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking specifically about the hearing and sight part. Because it's like whenever I think about I and hear, I think about the idea that I'm witnessing something. At least like it's like you said, yes, I recognize that there is a company, but that I'm witnessing it with my eyes, I'm observing it, or I'm hearing it. I'm like, I can call on that, talk to it. So I know that there's some sort of observation that I'm doing, and I'm gonna have to come to a conclusion. But that conclusion is from something I'm hearing / my own vision.
Mm-hmm. So we can get into two levels there. One is like ear as a tool, eye as a tool, but also sight and hearing as awareness of these things, like multiple levels of benefits I have over there. It's not only ear, because ear is a tool, but ear itself is not enough for hearing. Because once I die, still I will have the ear intact in there, but I wouldn't be hearing. So, but yes, the reason I was giving the example of cell phones is maybe it makes us realize that there is something we use very widely. We take it for granted most of the time, but we notice it. We notice that somebody is maintaining it once we don't get signal. We say, oh, somebody was providing signal so far. Likewise, I have a tool, I keep using sight and hearing, and I do not know how, what, why, any of these. How is it functioning? What maintains this? Yet I keep using it. So verse is making me question this very fundamental basic need. Sight and hearing. Who is the owner of this system? Who is the who has the towers, if you like, of seeing, which is the sun over there? Like somebody put the sun over there. With that light, you're able to see. Who is the owner of this tower over there? Without it, I wouldn't be able to see.
And the light itself is not enough either. Like just like the cell phone example, every component in the system needs to be adjusted for a certain outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you take your laptop, which is more powerful than your phone, and put it on the air, it will not receive anything. Right? Your laptop needs to be adjusted for that. Mm. Or you have the phone and you go to, I don't know, the Antarctica, where there's no signal. I mean, there are some signals there, obviously. The entire space is full of some signals, like background, whatever. But you will not receive that type of thing because the things are not adjusted for that. The same thing, just because there's a light doesn't mean that it is suitable for sight. Every object needs to be adjusted so that they will absorb some parts, reflect some other parts, and the parts that reflected would happen to be very nicely fitting to your cells in your eyes, and so on and so forth. And as you said, just receiving the signal is just the beginning. The real magic starts after that. And the only explanation we have for eyes, the scientific explanation, oh yeah, it happened to be millions of years of evolution. And that's the only explanation we have. How such a system can exist, or millions of years. That's all. So the word, like when it says Malik, having authority over everything, right? Like when we say control, it's as if somebody just switching on and off. No, it's like the Malik Yavmidin would say that it's having the authority, the say over things. The same way, sight, whatever you mean with the sight, he has the authority on it, which is the entire universe acting together so that you can see.
Yeah. And I guess our even limited example can be extended in this sense because phone needs the electric grid line and everything. So this is, so Quran is attracting our attention to this very basic yet very important need that we are experiencing. Then comes the next part of the verse. وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ. And who brings the living out of the dead and brings the dead out of the living. So is this happening really? Like bringing living out of the dead and dead out of the living?
Yeah. Seeds, I want to say, like
Seeds.
where you plant seed, goes into the tree, whatever that falls, that tree can die, but that same cycle can happen. So you can actually visually see that the life and death is kind of happening the same pattern.
And yeah, Suzari.
I guess it's interesting because I feel like when we think about bringing something living, that is more easily connected to like a blessing from like God or something, like an active God. But when something gets destroyed or dies, there's like a different feeling. Like it's like it feels like this was a very unfortunate event that happened, or like this was a calamity. Like this is just really something disastrous that like had no reason to first. I'm using reason a lot, but had no like benefit to it. So it couldn't have been like why. I guess those are the moments that make people question like, where is God, or things like that.
And when it comes to life, since the verse is attracting our attention to life here, like you put together all different non-living components and it makes a baby. Like this baby is just drinking water, which is not alive, or eating things which by themselves are not alive anymore, but yet we see this lively creature over there. So actually this, we constantly observe, we inhale lifeless air, but it becomes part of my living body. So somehow life is being constantly made out of death. So, or life is being extracted from dead. But in a larger scale, if you would like to see it in a different way, yes, seeds, or now it's winter time, all the trees are dead. And they are going to be given life, as we know, as the spring comes. So this is a constant act that's happening. And then something is living and then dies. Life is being taken away. Still, it is intact. Nothing is missing from the, if you like, material composition of it. Yet life is not there anymore. So what makes this? Who makes this? And since life is being mentioned in here, so I need to pay attention. So for life to happen, just in my case, or in a baby, or in a single cell, or whatever, I see that life is so it doesn't happen in the vacuum. It is happening within the entire system. So for the life to exist, the whole system needs to be maintained. So when the question happens, who makes life? Who takes away life? So whomever maintaining the entirety of the system is the one that's maintaining the life and death. وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ. And who arranges every matter? يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ. Now this is a wider question. What does this question tell you when you hear مَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ? Who arranges every matter? Yes.
It makes me think about like the universe. I think this is something we were talking about like 2 weeks ago, where like for example, like if we're in like going to this universe, or like say like in our classroom, our teacher runs the classroom, and then like we have a president that runs the university, we have a mayor that runs the city, and then as we scale back out and out, then we wonder like, well, the world, it's like spinning on its own, and then we scope out from the world, like we're in a solar system, we're in a galaxy, we're in a universe. So like those things we don't have a like how does that happen? Like that's, I think, like there's no answer to that, and then we attribute that unanswerable things to Allah, right? So when I think of this question, it kind of takes me back to what we talked about.
That's good. One parenthesis in there. I couldn't find like Yudabbirul Amr. Let's go back to Yudabbirul Amr here. Amr is like things are happening. But things are not happening haphazardly or randomly. This is why we have universities here. We are trying to find how they are happening, because they are happening in an orderly fashion. They are being taken care of. Yudabbirul Amr, like tadbir in there, means they're being made orderly. This is why we say, wait a second, what is going on in here? What makes this? Since there is order. Like if there was, I don't know, a crime scene, there are many such movies, right? If things start lining up, this is how they find the criminal. Because at some point, criminal is leaving a mark behind. Because things are lining up in a certain way that, oh, this is the person who is doing it. Even if you try to obscure it so much, a trace is there. But the existence is, everything is happening in an orderly fashion. So the question is, what dash who? The reason we ask as who, as men here, rather than what, not ma, but men, since it's orderly, this highlights that there must be a conscious being behind this. فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهِ, they will say, like فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهِ in here is like as if inevitably, immediately, they will eventually, but immediately as a consequence, say, Allah. فَقُلْ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ, then say, are you not going to be conscious of Him then? So when we read this verse, we should really take it upon ourselves, because Qur'an is saying that you are not being conscious of Him. When I ask them individually to you, you will realize this, but you are not living conscious of Him. Maybe because you take things for granted. You use your cell phone without thinking that, oh, Verizon is providing me the service. You just use it. But you should be conscious of Verizon. I mean, if at the end of the month, if you are not conscious of Verizon, they will cut your service and say that, no, you need to be conscious of us. This is how it works, right? You have to pay your bills. So Creator is saying that, look, you are benefiting from this. And if I ask you individually, you will realize the answer. Then why are you being unconscious? Now let's come to today's main topic. فَذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمُ الْحَقِّ. So this is, after being consciousness, we are called to be conscious. فَذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمُ الْحَقِّ. For that is Allah, your Lord, the truth. So this part of the verse is introducing three divine names for us: Allah, Rabb, and the truth. How is this related to the previous verses? Previous verse. Let's pay attention. The first one was talking about يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, you being provided and sustained from heavens and earth. The second one was talking about who is the owner of hearing and sight. The third one was mentioning giving of life and giving of death. And the fourth one was talking about the one who controls or takes care of or creates orderly the events. So Allah, Rabb, and Al-Haq. So the first, the one who sustains you from heavens and the earth. And the last one, وَمَن يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ, who takes care of everything, is reminding, if you like, Allah in the largest sense of the name. Because me being sustained, يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, does not only look for my sustenance in my belly. You are being sustained with your feelings, you are being sustained with your thoughts, you are being sustained with sounds, sight, everything. So يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ means He is sustaining you with the universe in a sense. So all the divine names are included in this sustenance in heavens and earth. Hence, name Allah. The last one, يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ, is again a very wide thing to observe. Everything is being maintained by Him. So Allah, the divine name Allah is, it is the all-encompassing name. It means Rahman, it means Rahim, and everything. But then we have يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ. This is a specific example. Who has sight and hearing? So maintaining is highlighted there. Hence, Rabbukum. The name Rabb is being clearly observable in my hearing and sight. So when you hear someone, or when you're not able to hear someone, you should say, oh, Ya Rabb, by truly meaning Rabb in this case. Like this is how we make dua, right? We open our hands and say, Ya Rabb, heal my hearing, heal my eyesight. Let's say I have pain in my eyes, and I say, Ya Rabb, for all these things, right? But next time, consciously say, Ya Rabb, because my sight was being maintained by you, is being maintained by you. Actually, it being maintained was constantly reciting your name, Rabb. Now I'm turning to you, Ya Rabb, oh Verizon, give me service. You call the call center of Verizon and say, oh, Verizon, I have some connection issue. So, Ya Rabb, now I'm recognizing that you were the one who has been providing me, sustaining me. Give me service. It was not mine. I thought I have very sharp eyes. Actually, my aunt's husband had a very sharp eye, and he was proud of it. Like we wouldn't be able to see anything, and he would just say, oh, just kilometers away, something. We are sometimes like this. Or I have a very keen ear to music, like I'm being proud of it, as if it's mine, or I have part of it. So when we say, Ya Rabb, this is then what it refers to. And then يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي. This is referring to al-haq, the truth. This is where I come from, where I go to. It's not that life happens by itself. Life is not a combination of things. And death is not annihilation, a random annihilation. But truth, I come from Him, I go to Him. So these three words are summarizing the previous verse. And the previous verse was, as we were discussing in the previous weeks, reading the book of universe to us. The book of universe says in the book of universe, I do see sustenance. I do see seeing and hearing. I experience this. But then, next time I think about it, I would say, this means Rabb, this means Allah, this means Haq. So divine names, then we can say, are constantly being chanted or recited or repeated in the existence, in the universe. So in this regard, we can also read then the verse which says everything in the heavens and the earth, sabbaha lillahi or yusabbihu lillahi, they make tasbih, remembrance or glorification of the Creator. Here is another example of that. Any comments?
Then, like we find the Bible, the treasuries or the divine name in the universe. Then the Quran is suggesting us the way we read it, the way the ayah is unfolded. So just suggesting us that look at the creation, look at your life, whatever happens there, don't just take it as granted. Ask questions. And when Quran asks women, you should ask this question. It's not just there for rhetorical purposes. Women, you should ask this question. Who does that? Who does this? And then as an answer to that, you should be able to get the conclusion of the divine name. Then divine names become something becomes not something that you simply memorize. There are all 99 names of the Creator. As a Muslim, I should memorize that. No, Quran says, no, as a Muslim, your role is ask the question, men, who, try to answer it, and whatever your answer is, this is the name that you will be calling. Just like, in other ayahs, when Quran depicts hereafter, very interesting, right? When Quran depicts hell, for instance, the depiction goes as, okay, whoever you believed so far, call them for your help. So the ayah says that, right? Call every false idols that you believe. So whatever answer you give, these men question, who? Who provides me from the sky? Who provides my sight? Who provides my eyes? Quran says, ask these questions, give the answer. You will get your divine name out of it. If you say, my eyes, this is your divine name. And hereafter you will call your eyes. You will say that, okay, my eyes, give me my sight. And as Quran again depicts, they will be resurrected as blind. The eyes will be there, but you won't be able to see. Because you will be calling to your eyes to get this sight, not the one who gives them, the Rabb. And you won't be able to see it because there's no haqq in it. There's no truth in it. Your eyes will say, as Quran again depicts, the false idols, they will say, we didn't mislead you. We didn't promise you anything. Your eyes will say, I didn't tell you that I gave the sight to you. You made it up. Don't ask me to give you sight. I cannot. And all these conversations are kind of, depicted in Quran very beautifully. So this is the divine name, what it means. The answer of your man question.
Actually, it's recently I changed my service provider for internet. And with my assumptions and taking things for granted, I assume that it is the same cable. But just the provider is going to differ. I'll just give them a call and they will switch it on the fly. No, a technician came home. I said, isn't this the same cable? He says, no, we have a different infrastructure. They are using, what's it?
Fiber optic.
The new one is using fiber optic. The previous one was using copper wire. So he needed to, the guy took 3 hours or so to set up a new wire to home, open up hole and everything, set up the wires, so that now we have, and even installed a new different type of a modem and everything, so that now we have internet at home. So if I were to call the guys and said, oh, just connect me to the internet, they would say, no, it's not that easy. So things are happening behind the scenes. Somebody's taking care of that. So, but I was, what's it, in ghafla? What was the word for ghafla? Heedless. I was heedless of what they were doing. Actually, when I said to the technician, isn't it just using the same cable? He was a little bit like repulsive and saying that, no, we use a different technology. So as if I am taking it so lightly of what is going on with their service and underappreciating what they are doing. Likewise, this is what I do with eyesight, with hearing, and many of these things. So he would, like, if I were to apply to my technician, he would say, this is Verizon, what do you think? Now, the Verizon is the name. When I see the sight and hearing, it is the Rab is the name. This is the service provider for this. The company that provides the service is Rab. So summarizing, first observe the service, then acknowledge the service provider. So Qur'an is using this pattern of first making us read, first question and then read the book of universe, then summarizes it with the name of the service provider, which is divine names in this case. So there was a hand. Sister Nuran, sorry, would you like to talk?
Yes, salam alaikum.
Salam.
So I think our perception of everything makes the thing itself a little bit different, and like even the perception of Al-Hudhud of Sulaiman when he said to him, أفلا يسجدون لله الذي يخرج الخبأ? Don't they, how come they don't make sajda for Allah, who is actually getting out everything hidden all over the earth, and so this was little things that anyone of us would never have noticed, was something for this small creature who noticed it. So I think like what I need to say, like your perception of the names of Allah, our perception of the names of Allah will always be like according to the situations that we are dealing with. Like if we will always say Subhanallah. For example, Al-Wadud, if you need someone to talk to, or to be close to you, and there is the name of Allah Al-Wadud, and there is the name of Allah Ar-Razzaq when you are hoping for more. When you are hoping for more generally in life, and one thing I noticed also in Surah Yasin is that, like, and in this ayah also, like, how come people who deny or don't fear Allah, how come they know there is Allah? They know, like, somehow we are all created in a way that we know that there is Allah. Like, for example, in Surah Yasin, he says, إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. Like they know he is Ar-Rahman, and in another verse the Quran also said, I don't remember which, but I remember he saying قل ادعوا الله أو ادعوا الرحمن أيما تدعوا. So yes, I think the idea of our limited abilities, but there is different perceptions of the names of Allah. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry for making a long comment.
No.
Thank you.
This is the verse that you were referring to. So,
Yes,
الرحمن أيما تدعو فله الأسماء الحسنى.
yes, exactly.
So,
So
yeah.
somehow they know, you know.
Yeah, Jazakallah khairan. So actually this was an important point, as Sister Nuran was giving the example of hudhud, like a bird, in Sulaiman alayhi salam's story, as Quran mentions it. That bird is describing the Creator as the one who extracts the hiddens, which is another divine name that a bird is aware of. So we should ask, if you are a engineer, physicist, doctor, whatever you are doing, you are knowing your Creator different than another person. You are created in a way that you are manifesting. In medicine, you manifest different things than an engineer would manifest. But you can attribute it to yourself, as my aunt's husband was attributing farsightedness to himself. Or you can attribute farsightedness or sight in general to your Creator as well. So let's go with the next example. لِلَّهُمَّ مَالِكَ الْمُلْكِ تُؤْتِي الْمُلْكَ مَنْ تَشَاءُ وَتَنْزِعُ الْمُلْكَ مِمَّنْ تَشَاءُ وَتُعِزُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ وَتُذِلُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرُ إِنَّكَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Say, O Allah, owner of sovereignty, you give sovereignty to whom you will, and you take sovereignty away from whom you will. You honor whom you will, and you humble whom you will. In your hand is all good. Indeed, you are over all things competent. وهو على كل شيء قدير. بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. تولج الليل في النهار وتولج النهار في الليل. You cause the night to enter the day, and you cause the day to enter the night. وتخرج الحي من الميت وتخرج الميت من الحي. You bring the living out of the dead, and you bring the dead out of the living. وترزق من تشاء بغير حساب. And you give provision to whom you will without account. So again, these verses are exemplifying, after make us read the book of universe. These are the acts, Malik al-Mulk. So the owner of, or the authority over the existence. Do you observe that there must exist an authority in this existence? Do you think no? Jump from the window and see what happens. Like, there is already an authority. Like, there is an authority which you cannot go against. Like, you can escape from, let's say, you can do tax evasion, right? Because you think that they're not looking here. Maybe I can hide from IRS. I have a chance to hide. Can you hide from the one who controls gravity? Like, you're jumping and immediately, it's not like, maybe this time they won't be watching me and I can get away with it. So constantly there is an authority in this existence and not missing anything. So Malik al-Mulk. تُؤْتُ الْمُلْكَ مَنْ تَشَاءُ وَتَنْزُعُ الْمُلْكَ مِمَّنْ تَشَاءُ. So he is the one who gives sovereignty to whom he wills and takes away sovereignty from whom he wills. It's an interesting thing. Like, you see that these babies are being given some sort of a sovereignty, and Brother Birkan is being taken away sovereignty. He's getting old.
Oh.
I mean, it started with marriage. Some of your sovereignty were given to your wife. And then now it's being given to kids. And just, so this is how, I used to think that I have authority, but I am being given and I am taken away authority. It's not mine. Although I would love to believe that I am an authoritarian person by myself. No. My grandfather used to be a very authoritative husband in my childhood days. But then he entered in between a fight and he was trying to separate them. And one of the guys fighting there just put a punch to my grandfather's eye. the one who was trying to separate. So rule of thumb, my mom told me back then that never try to separate a fight. But anyways, after this event, he became this, like now that one of his eyes was 95% not seeing and whatnot, he released all this authority, or it was taken away from him. So then my grandmother started becoming the boss at home, which was taken away from her eventually as well, because she then had Alzheimer's. Now her memories and intellect and everything was taken away. So he gave it to grandfather, then took it away from grandfather, who used to actually, when they were to ask they go to Hajj together. And when they came back, my grandfather said, well, it would have been better if I were to take a brick with me there rather than my wife. Like he was seeing his wife such a burden. But then things turned away, like just upside down, and he becomes so much connected to his wife because he was in need of her care. But then the wife was initially Alzheimer's. And when she died, my grandfather was so upset that her friend passed away. So authority is being given and taken and given and taken throughout our life. So is it really mine? When I feel like I have control over someone or something, is it really mine? You have a comment?
I see this in like my friends as well. Like,
They are not listening. Okay, go ahead.
No, especially like my dad, I think as he's becoming older, he used to be very much like the authoritarian in our household. And it still is. I mean, we all respect him in the household, but now it feels more like, oh, I can tell him something and give him a good advice. And he'll like take my words not for granted, but actually listen and like think about why I'm saying certain things.
Yeah.
And also like listen to my mom as well.
Yeah.
But it was, I think, especially in like the last 4 years that I've been in university, seeing that change in him was very interesting. Seeing him becoming more calm, like rather than just like stubborn in his ways.
Yeah.
So when you're sharing your story,
And how do we take it? Do we take it as now it's my turn? Or do I take it as no, وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ?
I'm very appreciative that he listens more.
But which name do you read there? So is it that now it's my turn, Dad? Or, oh yeah, it was your good days, now it's my good day?
I mean, sometimes it feels great that it's
Right. Right. So reading it not in my own name, because back in the day, if I were to read it in his own name, I would see him as this authority, source of authority. And now I see myself as the source of authority. But in both cases, if I am to read it as now Quran is suggesting me, no, وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. He has power over all things. He has power over even the tyrants out there, given authority by him. It's not that the tyrant gets authority by themselves. It's not their authority. Yes.
That, I think it's really important. So I said, له, له مالك الملك. So when it comes to the creator, the creator is the malik of the moon. Like he's the owner of the moon, the sovereignty. But when it comes to others, to whom you want, it says like it gives the sovereignty, as if, hold it for me, please, and then take it back. You're not becoming the mulk, the malik, of this mulk. So you cannot say that he gave me power, I have the power. No, you cannot say that. It's just the power is manifested on you to teach you something and others something about who has the real power, who has the malik of the power. So when you have, for instance, a power over seemingly power over your dad, doesn't mean that you really have power over your dad. It seems like that. And then the question again, who has this power? And the ayah answer is kullu shay'in. Even the parts that you think you have, because kullu shay means everything with no exceptions. It's not like you have a tiny part of the power sovereignty, but he is the big one. No, even this tiny part needs to go to. So, and like with this logic, when we look at the, again, our life, and say that Trump has power over this, the crazy guy has that power over that, and then this lady has this type of power over this. If you believe that, then the rest does not follow. The kullu shayin qadir, ala kullu shayin qadir, that part we cannot claim to have a firm belief. So this divine name is in your life only when you see that in every instance of power that I see, it doesn't belong to the one who seemingly carries this power, but it belongs to the real Malik of the power.
Sister Zerin's hand was first, I think. Okay. Then there are two.
I guess I'm just thinking of when I don't say who the order of sovereignty is correctly, like quote unquote, if I'm being tested with power and I don't say who the order is correctly, I have a lot of anxiety around that power to be fair. Because it's like whether the example that was just given, you're like, well, my livelihood is impacted by this, the whole community is freaking out, guys be panicking, this is happening. And sometimes you do see that action, it's not just like something is happening, but you see it manifest in your own life very strictly. So then the first thought is like, oh, I'm done for. Like, do I think about other careers? Am I even in the right field? I mean, you're questioning your whole life based on somebody who supposedly you said doesn't have sovereignty. So I think like in some ways, these kind of events forces me to question who do I really think have power? Because if the question is, oh Allah, like you have autonomy, then I wouldn't be freaking out as much as maybe I do in my. So I think it's also good when these events truly do call into question who knows.
And he gives authority to this or that, or takes away from this or from that. بيدك الخير. The good is at your hand, which means if you give, it is khayr, it is good. If you take away, it is good. If you give it to the tyrant or take it away from it, like whatever it is good then, because you are the owner of authority. Like seeing and observing it. But as Brother Bikan was highlighting for the previous verse again, it starts with say. So when we were discussing Qul huwallahu ahad in here as well, this doesn't mean that parrot this word. Like I think back then I was also referring to Turkish movies. Like there used to be those old Turkish movies, historical Turkish movies. Our hero would just capture some Christian guy, and then Christian guy's heart becomes softened and whatnot, and he says, repeat after me. Ashhadu an la ilaha. So it's like this repeat after me type of a thing, and he just converts and he becomes a totally different guy with a single word. I mean, practically it doesn't work like this, as we all know. So this gul in here doesn't simply say just parrot this. Whenever we read qul in Qur'an, that means read, digest, and come to that conclusion. See if you will be coming to that conclusion. So when this verse is saying qul Allahumma malik al-mulk, then I should say, oh really? Is Allah is the only owner of the sovereignty? Yes.
I was thinking about this in like a different context. Like, when you're asking Allah for forgiveness, right? For anything you ask Allah for forgiveness. like the one instance where if you do something wrong to another person and you ask Allah for forgiveness, or ask you to like, ask that person for forgiveness. So I guess just want more clarity of like how this sovereignty applies in this context, in the context of like you're asking.
So I think in this case, what's happening in this setup of asking for forgiveness from that person? What's the point of asking for forgiveness? Because I break something. And let's say if I break Brother Birkan's head, literally speaking, and then I open my hands and turn to my Creator and say that, oh Allah, fix his skull. What would be his response? The proper way to ask for fixing his skull is taking him to the hospital, because this is how you break it. So there's something for you to learn. You break the order, so you need to fix the order the way you break the order. And I am the orderer. And I would like you to observe me as the orderer. So if I break somebody's heart, yes, eventually I am breaking my connection with the Creator because he put an order there and I messed it up. I says, okay, you messed it up, but to learn how to fix it, you have to learn where you messed it up. This is why you need to fix it from there. Like, it's not like God is saying that, okay, yes, I was once the total owner, but now I shared it, so partially go and make that person get pleased as well. Because this life is an education. And I'm supposed to learn something. It's being and there's a reason that I know from experience why I am not willing to go and ask forgiveness from this person and then coming back and saying, God, okay, God, it was all about you and me. I messed it up. Please forgive me. The Creator says, it's not that easy. You wouldn't learn if you do it as such. Go from there. So I think we are at time. We had one more verse, but we'll just read it, but we'll not get to there. So, again, you cause the night to enter the day, you cause the day to enter the night. You bring the living out of the dead, and you bring the dead out of the living. And you give provision to whom you will without account. So again, this is going to be read as all these are different types of sustenances that are being given to you. So ترزق من تشاء بغير حساب. So you are the one who gives sustenance without any account.
Razak.
Razak. So the divine name that we conclude here is being Razak.
So maybe one point, if you allow me. So here again, we have you bring the living out of death, you bring the dead out of the living, just like the previous ayah. And all these examples Quran gives, like that earth, for instance, like another example given in Quran, that earth given life when the rain comes, or the night entering day, day entering the night. So if you ask if we happen to have, plant biologists among us, I think we don't. Do we? Oh, I thought one of you, the exam was. Oh, it's only Sarah. Okay. They would say, this is a silly example because, the earth or the trees, in your example, they're not that. They are there. They still, have this biological, the processing working and so on.
They are hibernating, just
exactly. They are hibernating, or with another name, another made-up name that Creator didn't send any sultan, the authority, with Quranic terms. But still, Quran giving these examples because, it's also teaching us something there. So Quran speaks in the language that we understand, right? So when I look there, my perception says there is no life there, or let's say there is no spring there. right? It's a winter time, and the tree is wearing its winter clothes, and the spring is not there. And then in a month, I just open my window and spring is there. Something was not there before, now it is there. This is an example, or Quran says, of death and living. You should read it this way. The same way, the night, whatever you observe in the night is not like day. So day for you is not day. But in a few hours, the day, whatever it is created for you. From that comes the living. You can apply the same thing to, your example. I was young, restless, whatever. Now I'm old. From living, now there's death here. My energy is not there anymore. Right? So you can apply this to everything. So when Quran talks about death and living, it's not, don't take it as just a biological thing. Apply it to everywhere. A country having the power over other countries for a century and then not having it. Life, death out of life, or the vice versa. We see this cycle everywhere. In sociology, psychology, the international relationships, whatever. So take the day, death and living in such a way, Quran says.
And this was just one verse. We don't have time to discuss this. وَهُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ مِنَ الْمَاءِ بَشَرًا فَجَعَلَهُ نَسَبًا وَسِحْرًا وَكَانَ رَبُّكَ قَدِيرًا. And it is he who has created from water a human being and made him lineage and marriage. And ever is your Lord competent. وَكَانَ رَبُّكَ قَدِيرًا, has power, like has the power. Something to think about. Let's leave it with that. Creation of human and human being given nasaban wa sihra. So given lineage and marriage. Like this sounds very quote unquote natural. But the conclusion is the power, the creator being powerful. Like the power of creator is being manifested here. So something to think about. Let's leave this.
Only if we had someone who's about to
get married. Yeah. So maybe they...
I couldn't find a plant biologist.
Oh yeah.
The Arya is saying that you think you will have Qadir, the Qudra there in marriage, the power, or your husband? No, there's someone else.
And actually, this is why the nikah, the act, like the tying of nikah, is being made in the name of the creator. Because what do the two people say? I do not own myself. She does not own herself. With your permission. And we acknowledge this. And to acknowledge this, we are getting together in your name only. To the extent that if you permit, we get together. Otherwise, like I cannot say, how do they say, my body, my something, whatever. Like, my body, my choice, in various different forms, not necessarily for abortion of anything of that sort. But this is the general idea. It's my body. It's my territory, my authority. I demonstrate my power. I demonstrate my authority here. But who creates me from a single water droplet? Then him and only him can have a say on me. So, سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.